It's Monday night, which means it is race time once again here for the TNR Grand National Series presented by Schue Lawn Service here at the Rockingham Speedway tonight for the Fatal Concepts 150. This is going to be a great short track race, and we're glad to have you tuning in once again this week. Hello everyone, I'm Mitchell Adams, being joined in the booth by Garrett Gleason. Garrett, missed you last week when you were down racing. Hope you had some fun, but now we get settled back in here for a night of some great short track racing, and you and I both talked before we went live here just how unique this track is here at Rockingham.
A unique track, Mitchell, and as much fun as I had being out there with these guys last week on track, I'm happy to be in the safety of the booth tonight. This place will eat you up. It will eat your tires, and it's going to take a heck of a race car driver. As we see some chaos in practice here, it's going to take a heck of a race car driver to win this race tonight, because you need to just hit your marks nonstop and don't take anything for granted out there, Mitchell. And you could probably talk about the line around this place after your lap guide today.
Yeah, the line is pretty much just get it to stick through the corner. Again, you see J.D. Laird get into the outside wall. That is definitely not the only time we're going to see drivers do that here today. When I took that lap, and I saw you took some laps in practice too, Garrett, it just bumps this car around to the point you almost have no control over where it decides to go in the corner. You're just kind of along for the ride with it. Got about 3 minutes left in practice. The 90 of Johnny Eckert is fastest. J.D. Laird second. Matthew Rodriguez in a new look this week, the Bubble Yum car. That's nice bright paint scheme for Matthew. But this is a race of attrition. Really, you've got to survive 150 laps here in the Fatal Concepts 150. And if you win this race, you're definitely going to have earned this one. This is, in my opinion, Garrett, probably one of the most difficult races on the schedule, just because of the difficulty of the track and how old and rough this surface is to drive on.
It is certainly old and rough, and we were talking to Jason Schue before the race. He actually races here in real life. He said they're going to be putting some new asphalt down there. If they haven't already, maybe they did. He was excited to get on the new surface, was the point of it, and he was going to give us the update and let us know how it's going to be, and maybe that the NASCAR National Series would start to come back to Rockingham, which I think would be a great thing, Mitchell. Tracks like this, like we talked about, very unique, challenging for drivers, and that's the type of track that NASCAR needs to go back to. I like that they've added road courses over the years, and I would like to see them go back to some tracks. We're starting it with North Wilkesboro and some other tracks like that. Let's keep that momentum going. These places deserve to be raced on.
Yeah, we're seeing NASCAR kind of go through a little evolution, I guess, and the kind of tracks they're racing on. You talked about them reviving North Wilkesboro, bringing that back. We saw them add the Bristol Dirt Race a couple of years ago, so they're doing a mix of adding the road courses and almost modernizing the series a little bit with the Chicago Street Course, but they're also going back to their roots, adding some local short tracks and the dirt tracks. So yeah, absolutely. I think maybe in the near future, maybe we'll see Rockingham come back. I know there's a big movement, and we saw it work with North Wilkesboro, so maybe this track as well. I forgot to look up the last time the NASCAR Cup Series ran here. I'm pretty sure it was mid-2000, 2003, 2004 maybe. I could be very wrong about that, but certainly a difficult task with just under a minute left in practice. Looking out into the chat, the Windsor saying good luck, Bill, and Johnny Williams says good luck, all Ed. Hello to the booth. Hello, Johnny. Johnny Williams out on track tonight, put in a pretty good time in practice. It's 17th, but within half a second of the leaders. And once again, Garrett, we've seen this a lot this season, but the lap times are so close in practice. We'll probably expect about the same in qualifying, but week after week, you just never know who's going to show up to the track and have the speed to go win this race, because it seems like there's at least 6 or 7 drivers every single week who we sit up here in the booth and we watch and say they could win this race in the right circumstances.
Yeah, this field is stacked, Mitchell, and like you said, there's 5, 6, maybe even 10 guys each week that could win this race. And you saw it last week, obviously a plate track, but you saw how close the finishes were, how close that level of competition is. J.D. Laird comes to these races to win. Now, we didn't know we've had J.D. for the full season. He's made almost every race, but J.D.'s got some competition now up towards the front. Johnny Eckert is fast every week. Mike Tellier's winning races like he's never. I've raced with Mike for 15 years. He's never won races this consistently. There are so many guys that are getting better and better and just making our field so much stronger. But I think it's very important tonight, Mitchell, to get that good qualifying spot. So I'll be curious to see what type of laps these guys are able to put down.
I remember in our season opening race at Atlanta when Mike Tellier won that race, he was up here in the booth and he said he was really happy to win that race, but also because he didn't know when he'd get back to victory lane again. He wasn't sure if he could this season, but we've seen him get to victory lane now 3 times after winning one race in our Daytona doubleheader last week. And so far the winningest driver this season. You see him out for qualifying. Tellier, he hasn't won those races. It hasn't been easy for him either. He's had to come from the back to the front a lot. I think we saw that in those first 2 wins he got, and then Daytona is just Daytona. You and I both know very well how difficult that place is to win, and so far Mike Tellier doing a very good job, 4th in the points through these first 9 races of the season, and looking to put down a good run at Rockingham as he gets the wall there. That time not going to count. Here's Bill Edwards out on the track. Again, fatalconcepts.com, sponsor of tonight's race. Make sure to go check them out. I know you and I both just got some fresh new paint schemes from Fatal Concepts, Garrett. We saw yours last week, and in the lap guide, we had a nice WRN car painted by Fatal Concepts. So make sure to go check them out. Absolutely fantastic work they do at Fatal Concepts.
Bill has been doing amazing work, Mitchell, and I actually reached out to him last week to get a logo done for my work. We're called the Blue Devils at my school, and I wanted something that said Blue Devil Maintenance. One shot at it, and Bill sent me a logo that everybody absolutely loved. He is so talented. I encourage everyone to check out Bill's work, fatalconcepts.com. It'll take you to his trading paints page. Hit him up on Discord. Get a paint scheme done for yourself. You will not regret it. These cars that he designs are truly incredible. And that will be the last nice thing I say about Bill Edwards tonight.
Well, 3rd place on the speed charts right now, Bill. Nice job in qualifying here at the Rock. This is Vincent Valvano, and Vinny's been putting in some very good runs as of late, Garrett. I know you and I both have loved seeing him get up toward the front, mixing it up even in the top 5. 7th in qualifying, so a good run there for Vincent. James Lorello out on the track. James is also, once he came back to TNR earlier this season, he's had a very good couple of races here. Gets that Elizabeth Lorello racing car up to the front, but he has yet to finish in the top 5, Garrett. I know that's definitely gonna be a little bit of a chip on his shoulder if he is thinking of that kind of stuff. And this Rockingham, it's a tough track, and I think this is a track that might suit his driving style. James, very good at just buckling down and getting it done here on these tough tracks. But again, this field's so stacked with drivers. Each and every week, we never know who's going to be up front because it's just so hard to pick. Right now, it's J.D. Laird in qualifying on the pole. This is the number 97 of DJ Weeks in that Outlaw racing machine. And you missed it last week. They ran identical paint schemes. I'm pretty sure they're doing the same this week. So we're gonna have our hands full with these Outlaw racing drivers.
Yeah, we'll have our hands full for sure, Mitchell, but there'll be no doubt where they will be on the racetrack, and that will be up towards the front. So once we get that part of our brain situated, we'll just have to decipher the numbers. I think they're missing their teammate Jake Bustos this week. He's out doing some of his military stuff. So Jake, we certainly miss having you in the field, and I don't imagine your teammates are going to disappoint you tonight. They're going to be looking to get that victory in your honor. Well, maybe they'll finish second in his honor, Mitchell, because we all know Jake doesn't win any races.
He's come close a few times this season, but yes, hasn't quite been able to get over that hump and get it into victory lane. Lap number 2 for DJ Weeks goes all the way down to the apron. That goes to 8th place on the speed chart. Your top 10 are all within 0.4 of a second of each other. Robert Kinney, last week's race winner, is that driver in 10th. Again, we had the doubleheader last week at Daytona, which put on an fantastic show, and now qualifying, getting wrapped up here in Rockingham. We're gonna, once the starting grid is official, we'll take you through your starting order here for tonight's race. Again, the Fatal Concepts 150 at Rockingham, fatalconcepts.com. As the session switch over from qualifying to race, we'll go ahead and pull up your starting order so you know where your favorite drivers are going to roll off in this race. Up in the pole position, J.D. Laird in the number 64 machine. To his outside is the 99 of Philip Scott. Then starting in third, you see him there. That's Bill Edwards in the number 5 machine. Johnny Eckert's going to roll off from 4th place. James Lorello starts in the top 5. Then 6th, Tom Bourne in the number 16. Vincent Valvano rolls off from the 7th position. DJ Weeks in 8th. Matthew Rodriguez 9th. And one of our doubleheader winners last week, Robert Kinney, rolls off in 10th. Then it's Johnny Williams in the number 9 machine starting from 11th. Paul Bilson in 12th. Jamar Dumas in 13th. Joey Chapman starts in the 14th position. Mike Floppy Tellier, 3-time winner now this season, starts 15th. Then drivers who didn't take time in qualifying, Steven Doziak, Bob Giaquinto in the tabletop trio machine. Team Banana as well on the hood. That's a good paint scheme he debuted last week. Also Jason Schue rolling off 18th, and Robert Tripp in the TNR machine will roll off 19th to complete this field.
I like seeing Robert Tripp with the TNR logo on the hood. Thank you, Robert, for doing that. I always appreciate guys representing TNR, and I wish it would be done more often, that's for sure. So props to him. And I'm looking at Mike here backing into the 23. Mike, I don't expect to stay at the back for too long, but there's some talented guys towards the back here, and you just want to avoid any type of mistakes here early on. Let these guys get some heat in their tires and hopefully not have any accidents. And Philip Scott up on the front row, Mitchell, he's having a tremendous season, and the momentum is on his side. And I don't know, he might fight JD tooth and nail here going into turn 1.
Philip, from my broadcasting experience, is always a driver I've considered to be very good on these short tracks. He's got to be one of my favorites coming into this race. I'm not at all surprised to see that World Ninja League 99 up here on the front row. But you're right, he'll have his hands full with J.D. Laird too. Laird been so good this season, 2 wins already. But the key here is just going to be to get a couple laps under your belt, I think. Get these tires warmed up so you can settle in. We're probably going to see quite a bit of chaos here on these opening laps as the iRacing pace truck going to get ready to pull down into pit road. The field in the hands of J.D. Laird. Philip Scott with a good jump, a little bit too good a jump up in the high lane. He's got to check up, and that allows J.D. Laird to get pretty far out ahead. Bill Edwards going to try and slide through into the 2nd position. And Philip Garrett, he tried to time the restart great. JD just went a little bit further in the box than he expected, and not the way that 99 wanted to start today off. But still a lot of laps. He's going to get settled back in here, but not the greatest of starts for Philip Scott.
Not a great start, Mitchell, and I'm hoping that the on-track administrators just tell Philip, hey, you gave the spot back, no penalty for jumping that restart, because it would be horrible to ruin his race this early on. I think there's really no harm there. And a good job by everyone else picking up the pieces after that. You see a couple different lines here as we see a pass made on James Lorello, Mitchell, and that's something that I'm going to be keeping my eye on, see if any of these grooves work their way in throughout a tire run.
Well, oh, the 16, Tom Bourne slides up, almost got into the 13 of Lorello. These two continue to battle side by side. I think that's the 51 of Matthew Rodriguez. Got a big piece of the wall out of turn number 2. And that's so easy to do here at Rockingham. This is another one of those tracks. We talk about it at Dover too. Coming out of turn 2, it just feels like that wall comes up out of nowhere. So easy to get just a little bit out of line and get your right side into that wall. The thing we were talking about though with the different lines, when I drove laps on track here getting ready for this broadcast, the thing I noticed is even when I missed the groove, like if I was shooting for the inside but my car slid up the track a little bit, there's still a line to be run. I can still run kind of through the middle of the corner and be fast, or I can duck back down to the inside and be fast. You have a lot of variety here as a driver in the kinds of lines you can take, and that gives you a lot of control over your race and the tire saving. And you see right now, most of these leaders kind of enter almost in the middle, then get a little low toward that yellow line on exit. But I think we're going to see a lot of variety in this race. And I think the line they run now, not necessarily going to be the line they find fastest in the long run or even in the short run by the end of this race.
Yeah, that's spot on, Mitchell. And I'm just, as you're giving that perfect speech about the lines here, I was watching these front four guys all taking different lines, and that's the beautiful thing about racing and being here at a place like Rockingham. There's no necessarily right way to run this track. You'll figure it out with how your car feels, and you'll find your perfect line. And like you said, it'll adjust throughout the run. And we're just watching here James Lorello on our screen. Goes in, drifts up a little bit here in 3 and 4, and then back down a little bit, and that's the way to do it, Mitchell. Just feel it out.
Yeah, you have to let the track come to you at Rockingham. You say that about a lot of different places we go, but this place, more than any other, you can't force the car to do more than it wants to do. You really almost have to let it drive itself around the track and just make sure not to put that car up into the wall and give yourself some damage. You see the 16 of Tom Bourne. He's putting a lot of pressure on Johnny Eckert in the 90 machine. Eckert been fast ever since he came into TNR, and again tonight at Rockingham, showing good pace early on. And as always, curious to see if that outside lane is better for defending a position or if the inside can really get it done. You see the 16 slide up the track just a little bit, got close to the 90. And that's something you have to be aware of too here, Garrett, is you can't hold that car down too much on the inside lane. I know as race car drivers, we love to do that, especially on short tracks. But at a track like Rockingham, where it's so abrasive and so bumpy, and you really can't hold a line as well as you can at other short tracks like Richmond or Bristol, sometimes you've got to give a little leeway, especially in the early stages of a race like this. You don't want to be doing something now that's going to cost you quite a bit of speed for the rest of this race.
You're absolutely right, Mitchell, and that got really close there between Johnny Eckert and Tom Bourne. I'm glad that both cars were still going in the right direction after that, and looked like Johnny was going to put a little pressure on Philip Scott there for third place, but ended up backing off here, and he's back under fire from that 16. Some tremendous action so far in our first dozen or so laps here at Rockingham.
If I'm Eckert in the 90s, there's contact between those two. They managed to save it. James Lorello gets through. Vincent Valvano gets through. I was just about to say that if I'm the 90 of Johnny Eckert, I might just let the 16 of Tom Bourne go, because he's clearly wanting to run faster than me right now. Maybe not necessarily faster. He might just be saving a little less tire in the short run. I might just let him go do his thing and hope that I can save enough tires to beat him on the long run, because you see the results of that as those two made contact, and the 90 slid his tires quite a bit. So did Tom Bourne in the 16, and Eckert lost a couple positions there as he tries to get back around Vincent Valvano. But Vinny's been looking pretty fast here in the early stages now, putting some pressure on James Lorello.
Vinny's not having the season I think he was hoping for as far as consistency goes, and it's good to see him out here 6th place right now, working his way towards the front. I think this is a place that will suit Vinny and his driving style if he can keep it clean and not get involved in someone else's mess. So it's good to see that 64 Bagcraft Ford running towards the front, and I just hope he can put it all together. We've had guys in TNR, Mitchell, when Peter and I were doing races or whatever, that just had the bad luck bug, and that's been Vinny so far this season. So let's keep her going in the right direction, Vinny, as we watch. Mitchell, this action has been incredible every week, and I'm not surprised by this, but this is a tough track, and these guys are making it look pretty easy so far.
Yeah, green flag for the first 15 laps, and you said it perfectly, Garrett. Every single race this season has just been phenomenal. These TNR drivers have done a great job putting on good, entertaining races at tracks we wouldn't necessarily expect to see super good racing. I point back to the Indianapolis road course and how good a race we had there between Philip Scott and Johnny Eckert. Speaking of Philip Scott here in the number 99 World Ninja League machine, he's still running in third after slipping on the start, but something to note here, Garrett, the 46, JD Laird, he's slipped out to quite a bit of a lead here in the opening. Bill Edwards about a half a second back, but these two are about a second and a half, 2 seconds in front of Philip Scott. So in the early stages of this one, the 46 and the 5 seem to be pacing the field quite a bit.
Yeah, so far, Mitchell, we would call this a two-car breakaway to an extent. Bill is not letting JD get out of his sight, but at the same time, JD's got to feel pretty comfortable about the type of lead he has. We're about 2/3 of the way to our stage break, and then these guys are going to come and get some tires, and we're going to see if that shuffles up the field any. But right now, Mitchell, if you're live betting this race, so to speak, you would pick from one of these two competitors for sure.
Yeah, certainly in this opening run, JD Laird and Bill Edwards seem to have the pace a little bit better than the field. That's certainly not to say the rest of these drivers won't figure it out. They're too talented not to, and not to match the pace of these guys by the end of this one. I noticed a couple laps ago that Bill kind of ran in the middle of 3 and 4. He's gone back to that yellow line. You kind of see both JD Laird and Bill Edwards. They're entering low on this yellow line, and then they let the car drift up a little bit, and then they kind of hold it kind of half a groove above that yellow line. That's what we call diamonding the corner, which basically you get in the corner as hard as you can, you let the car drift up the track, and then you turn it back down hard to straighten off the nose for corner exit. And that's the line I found to be the easiest to do in practice. Have to imagine it's also fast, but these drivers kind of just doing what's comfortable to them right now, because you don't want to try and put the car where it doesn't want to be 20 laps into this race. You still haven't quite gotten the feel for this race, and this, for some drivers, is going to be the first time they've done an extended tire run this long, even in practice and definitely in qualifying. So this first run, typically, Garrett, drivers just feeling out their car and feeling out the track before this first stage, because like you said, you're going to come in again in about 10 laps, get some fresh tires, the field stacks back up, and you get another chance to go out and fight with JD Laird for this race lead.
Yeah, how lucky is that? You get to go fight with JD Laird and get stomped on probably. But in all seriousness, Mitchell, these tires are almost to the end of their life cycle at this point. Feel out this track. Try something different that maybe later on in the race you could use. Oh, hey, 20 laps into a run, I could use the middle groove like Bill Edwards was saying. I could use maybe a little bit higher exit. Just get that type of information, especially because, I mean, you're not winning anything here on lap 24. So I think these guys are all smart enough to feel out their cars. And we might have 3 wide here, Mitchell. I don't want to keep talking. We got to keep our eye on this action.
Yeah, Tom Bourne under fire from James Lorello and Johnny Eckert. And coming toward the end of stage 1, you're probably going to see a little bit of an intense battle here between these drivers. This is the battle for the 4th position as James sends it up the inside, moves the 16 up into the wall. I don't think that was James Lorello's intention, but he did it. Moved Tom Bourne out of the way. Moved James Lorello to 4th. Johnny Eckert able to slide by into the 5th position, and Bourne still in the stage points, but goes down into 6th place. And when NASCAR used to run here, the line, they had even more variety in the lines than we do. You really see them up on the wall quite a bit. That line not as viable here on iRacing. I wish it was. Usually that middle groove is about the highest you're gonna see anybody want to go, but typically the line stays near that yellow line or involves it in some way, like we saw drivers kind of diamonding the corner or entering high and then turning it down. So you might not see the wall running. If you've never watched an iRacing race here, you might expect from watching old NASCAR races here at Rockingham. But James Lorello doing a good job holding off the 90 of Johnny Eckert. Looking through the field to see if we have any other battles for position going on. Matthew Rodriguez under fire from the 97 of DJ Weeks. Weeks actually going to look up the inside lane. And going back to James Lorello sliding up into Tom Bourne, Garrett, is that kind of that situation where maybe Lorello got into the corner all right speed-wise, but just hit a bump the wrong way and it sent him up the track? Because James is certainly not a dirty driver who's just going to drive up the track and move you into the wall.
Yeah, you talked about the bumps a couple times, Mitchell, and that was, I think, case in point what we saw there. You don't expect James Lorello to run somebody into somebody unless it's for a win or something, and even in that case, I wouldn't expect him to do that. He is a professional and such a good driver. Somebody who's not a professional, riding on board with Matthew Rodriguez, who is definitely the guy most likely to find the wall before everyone else, which we saw earlier. It looks like he has a little bit of damage there on the right front. He'll come down pit road and get it adjusted. But just look at the angle that you're going into these corners with, Mitchell. And for people that think, oh, it's just a game, well, it's not a game when you're out there, up against the wall, sideways, up on banking and stuff. It is every bit as intense as you can imagine it. And Matthew certainly enjoys himself out there, and I love watching him race because it's never a dull moment.
Caution flag is out for the stage. I love that gyro cam because, like you said, Garrett, it shows just how much banking is in these corners and how quickly the car straightens out when you come on the exit. That's what makes it so easy to slide up and get into the wall, is that transition from significant banking to barely any banking at all. Stage order here. JD Laird picks up the stage win. Bill Edwards in second place. Philip Scott in third. Johnny Eckert fourth. James Lorello fifth. Tom Bourne sixth. Robert Kinney seventh. And the driver we were just riding on board with, Matthew Rodriguez, finishes in eighth. The last driver to pick up stage points here at Rockingham. And we said it, Garrett, but everybody is going to be coming down for 4 tires and fuel. There's absolutely no reason you wouldn't want 4 new Goodyears. You probably want new tires after about 5 laps of running here at Rockingham. That's just how difficult this track is. So everybody's probably begging for tires that entire run, and now they finally get the chance to reset and get bunched back up.
This is going to sound pathetic, Mitchell, but my goal when I know the stage break is on lap 30 is always let me stay on the lead lap until then, feel out my car, and hopefully pit with everyone, get my tires, and then see how I stack up with what I've learned. These guys are different, obviously. They're out here trying to win, but I think the feeling is no different that, hey, I need tires, I need them now. But keep in mind, Mitchell, they only have 3 sets of tires in the pits. So you're putting one on now. There's only 2 left, and we have 100 laps plus left in this race. So this could become a tire strategy type race. But I don't think I'd want to be the guy to try to save a set of tires right now after 30 laps. This place, like you said, just eats up tires, and you would be so slow. And without a constant stream of cautions, you would just struggle to maintain pace and have any shot at this victory.
The tire strategy game, it hasn't come in to be as much of a factor this season. We saw it at Dover with a little bit of fuel and tire strategy games. We might see that again here at Rockingham. I hadn't thought of that too much, but now isn't the time for it. You're exactly right. When everybody else around you is going to be on fresh tires, you don't want to be the one guy in this field who's starting up toward the front of the pack because you only took fuel, but then you just drop like a rock, no pun intended.
Are you sure it wasn't intended, Mitchell? Because it seems like something Bob would do when Bob was in the booth. I think maybe just own it.
No, I kind of realized it before I said it, but I was gonna say it anyways. Speaking of Bob and his sponsor and podcast Tabletop Trio, we did not have a Tabletop Trio Lucky Dog Award. Under this caution, everybody remained on the lead lap, except for Johnny Williams, who retired early on in this one. Said out in the chat, got loose on the back straightaway, got onto the apron, and it was just a little bit of a mess snapped around for him. No caution, but Johnny Williams to the garage. But other than that retirement, everybody remains on the lead lap. So they did exactly what you said, Garrett. Just keep me on the lead lap through the stage and let me race it out from there. And now's that point where you've seen who's fast here. JD Laird and Bill Edwards, they broke away on that first run. Now, interestingly, Bill Edwards finds himself now in the 17th position. I don't know what actually happened to Bill under this caution, but he went from 2nd to 17th. I don't know if he'd come back down pit road or some kind of a penalty of some sort. Not sure, but that 5 all the way to the back of the field. That means Johnny Eckert going to start on the front row, and I think Philip Scott, I'm watching him because he wants a little redemption off that opening start of this race.
Yeah, a little redemption and starting from a different lane might help him this time. He's not on the front row, and he can kind of just go when the 90 goes here, and hopefully there is no stack up. So, gonna be interesting to watch Bill and see if he has a problem with that number 5 S2R. I believe it's a Chevy. Is it? What he drives now? Chevy
Pretty
machine.
sure Chevy.
And here goes JD with a good jump as always, because that's what professionals do. We'll see if there's a new contender up towards the front as we get back under green.
JD Laird took the outside lane on the restart. I'm not super surprised by that. It lets you get a little bit straighter off the corners, just a little easier to throttle up. I think we're going to see a mix of drivers. If anyone gets in front of JD, we're going to see a mix of people want the high line and the low line, and you might even see JD not quite stick on the high line all day long, but he gets right back out to doing what he was doing, and that is leading laps. We'll check back in on the number 5 of Bill Edwards. Looks like he's making his way through the field. He is in a Toyota. We were both wrong. But he's jumping under Robert Tripp there. Going to set his eyes on Steven Doziak in the 55 machine. So Bill, wasting no time, moving back up through the field. Again, I don't know what brought him back toward the back of the field, because he didn't come down pit road again, according to our data. So just an interesting situation, I guess, for Bill Edwards that we may not get the answer to during this race. We'll have to talk with him afterward. But moving up through the field quickly, but track position just so important. And when JD Laird is so fast and you're the only other driver who could keep pace with him in that opening run, getting sent to the back of the field, not what you wanted. It's exactly what JD Laird wanted, though, up front.
Yeah, it's a reprieve for JD. And now Bill also has the risk. Not only did he lose the track position, Mitchell, you're going to have to use up your tires more to get through this field. You might not think it's that difficult. Some of these guys will be easy to pass, but every little bit is going to matter at a place like Rockingham, and he's going to have to use different lines and use up his tires to get a good run and pass some of these guys, and that's going to hurt him later in the run. And when we went back green, I actually wanted to pose this question to you. Is there any thought in your head about trying to conserve my tires early in the run here? Like, are you already thinking about that at a place like Rockingham? Like, maybe if I hold on to some tire for later, I could be more of a contender?
Me as the driver, absolutely. I go into every run at a track like this thinking that I need to save tires for a long 40, 50 lap run potentially, because the tires just wear off so quick and I don't want to have to run around too long on them if I even waste 5 laps at the start of this run not saving my tires. You see Jason Schue slow on the apron because they just wear off so fast. If you want to be good long run, you've got to start saving tires from the drop of the green flag. And that's the benefit of running single file up front like we're seeing, is that these drivers can save their tires without having to worry too much about getting passed by the driver behind them. I wouldn't be the broadcaster if I didn't point out that in stage 1, James Lorello got into the side of Johnny Eckert, moved him up the track. Oh, wait, no, that was the 16 of Tom Bourne. My mistake. I thought we had a little in there, but still, Lorello was putting pressure on the 90. But now Philip Scott kind of putting a little pressure back on him, and then James slides back out in between the middle of them. DJ Weeks in the 97. We haven't talked too much about Weeks so far tonight. And look who's right behind him, though. Garrett, Mike Floppy Tellier. Surprise, surprise. Started the race 15th, now up to the 6th position. He doesn't want JD to win this race because that would tie Mike for the most wins this season. And he did win one at Phoenix, the short track, so we know he knows how to get it done on these kinds of racetracks. We'll see what that 47 is able to do through the rest of this race. And he's followed behind by the 34 of Robert Kinney, the 2 winners last week at Daytona, running next to each other in the position.
Yeah, a bit of a gap there, but these 2 guys coming off victories and have themselves in the top 10. And in Mike's case, he's certainly moved forward almost 10 positions. Robert Kenny still in contention. I don't have much experience running with Robert Kenny at a place like Rockingham, so I'm kind of just learning his driving style as it is. And these guys here not getting away from each other. This is a very intense battle here inside the top 5. Actually, from second to pretty much 5th here, riding on board Philip Scott's Ninja machine. And I can't believe Philip's actually running behind someone. He's been passing everyone so easy every race I've been able to run with him. So, wow, Mitchell, this camera, I could pretty much fall asleep. It's almost mesmerizing in a way.
Yeah, again, you just see the banking. It actually sounded like maybe Philip was downshifting there into the corner. I'll have to take a listen into 3 and 4 and keep it on board with him. He didn't shift into that corner. That's not to say he didn't in turns 1 and 2, but we've talked about the patience of Philip Scott and the maturity behind the wheel, running right behind James here. I don't think it sounded like he shifted there either, so maybe I just heard something that wasn't there that one time around the track, but he's just comfortably running in line and he's not pushing the issue. We saw that at the Indy Road Course when he won that race. Had a couple opportunities early and late to make it 3 wide or make a really aggressive move and thought better of it, and it paid off because he ended up winning that race. And we see again here, he's not pushing the issue with James. He's staying close, putting the pressure on, but not diving it in there, trying to make a pass that's not there. And that's what gets you consistent points finishes, and that's why he's second in points right now.
Yeah, points racing is important. Like, the name of the game is, well, a little bit of maybe netcode or contact with the outside wall there, but the name of the game is winning races, but it's a long season. You want to accumulate as many points as possible each and every week, and you do that by not beating yourself, putting yourself in good positions, and saving something for the end of the race and being able to capitalize. And so far, so good that he's been able to do that all season long, and I don't expect it to not continue, but at this point, it's pretty much safe. If you've won a race or 2 or you've been in that top 5 in points, you're probably going to be situated for a run at this championship. So that's something to keep in your back pocket, that you might be to the point where you're almost good on points and just start going for wins if the strategy dictates it.
And that's why it's crazy sometimes to talk about points racing so early in the season, but we're getting into the middle of the regular season, and it's the time where you're right. If you've established yourself in points, you can afford to race a little bit harder and go for the wins a little bit more than maybe the drivers around you are, because you've put yourself in a comfortable position that if you end up getting a bad finish, get in trouble in a race, it's okay because you've got that points cushion to fall back on. And that's what we're going to see, I think, from some of these drivers up at the front of the points. I think we talked about it, but Bill Edwards currently at the top of the point standings. Philip is second, JD third. Mike Tellier 4th, and Jake Bustos not here tonight, but is 5th in points. And look at Bob Giaquinto, too. Garrett, he's 6th place in points. We haven't seen too many flashy runs from Bob, but again, it's that consistency. Just continually putting in nice, consistent finishes. He finishes right around the top 10, occasionally flirts with the top 5 most nights, and that's put Bob in a position here where maybe not always up at the front like maybe you would want to be, but he's been doing such a good job not wrecking out of races that he's in a comfortable spot, and when that race comes that he's got a fast car, he can go for it.
Yeah, Bob's on the don't beat myself mentality, and it's working out for him. 6th place in points is absolutely nothing to sneeze at. I'm sure if you talk to Bob, he'd want a little more. He'd want to get a top 5 or whatever, but consistency is key. If you could show up every week, run in the top 10 every week, you're going to be there when it matters, when it comes time for that chase and our championship hunt begins. So back to the front of the field here, we got J.D. Laird, obviously somebody else chasing him down, the number 90 of Johnny Eckert. I think we'll see these two battle pretty much all season long for victory. And Johnny's not letting them get out of his sight, Mitchell, at all.
No, Johnny Eckert, we're at about 25 laps into this fuel run, so close to where they were at the end of the season. And again, John E. Eckert, ever since he came into TNR this season, he's just had phenomenal finishes. Won his first race at Dover, finished second in a nail-biter at the Indy Road Course to Philip Scott. And last week in our Daytona doubleheaders, 12th and 4th, which are very good finishes at Daytona, a track that's so unpredictable. And he's really asserted himself as a championship contender here in TNR, and going up and challenging J.D. Laird, the driver everybody knows is kind of the benchmark, I think it would be safe to say, on how fast you are. This is a statement run. Just being able to keep pace with JD shows these guys you're racing the championship for that you're not here to mess around. You're a serious contender when we get later in the season.
Yeah, 100%. I'm just watching these guys go through lap traffic, Mitchell, and that's always a dicey moment. And I think it's important if you were Johnny Eckert coming into this league, you want to establish yourself, and how better to establish yourself than by showing up, winning races. And how about right now, live on WRN, passing J.D. Laird for a lead at Rockingham? I mean, that would be a moment for most drivers, but Johnny's a guy that, from what I've seen, is capable of winning every week. But I'd be impressed if it was me and I was able to pass JD for the lead, even if it was only temporarily.
I think it was Philip Scott earlier this season when he had the incident at Phoenix, almost won that race, and he said, I could get upset about it, but I'm just going to go out and I'm going to prove myself and win races, and he did just that. And I think it's a different situation, but it's the same mentality when you come into a new league mid-season, not mid-season, but you know, we'd had a couple races under our belts before Eckert showed up, and I'm just going to go out here, I'm going to run my best, and I'm going to win races, and I'm going to show these guys that I mean business. And Johnny Eckert, certainly every single week we expect him now to be up here contending for races because he's been so good in these first 4 races he's run. And again, up challenging J.D. Laird. These two drivers have pulled out 2 seconds on James Lorello, who currently runs in 3rd, checking in on Bill Edwards. Again, the other driver who could keep pace with J.D. Laird in that first run. He is up to 9th position, but he's just in the unfortunate position of, again, you've got to run so hard to try and pass drivers. That 5 seems to have stalled out just a little bit here. He's 7 seconds behind your race leader, and that's the importance of track position. And as soon as you lose that, it's so difficult to make back up again.
Yeah, that was going to be a hard battle for Bill, even with a fast race car coming through all that traffic and using up his stuff. Now we're over 30 laps into the run. Our first run was 30 laps, Mitchell, so I'm curious to see when that tire strategy is going to come into play and how much these guys are going to be holding on for dear life out there and hoping to get to the point where they can split these 2 final pit stops, for lack of a better strategy call.
I think we are having some technical issues here. We're going to take a look at that and what's going on. So stick with us just a moment here. We apologize for the technical issues, but iRacing just crashed for me. So we're going to try and get this booted back up. Garrett, I don't know if you're on the track, if you can call what's going on.
I'm not, but I can be if I need to be, Mitchell. I could launch back in here, and at this point, guys, you just see what happens. You're live on air. This is the first real glitch we've had on the World Racing Network, and I'm going to talk here a little bit while Mitchell tries to get all his software back up and running. But hey, this is the time we could, if you're in the chat, tell us something interesting. Tell us what you want to see, what you're thinking about the race so far, how much you like listening to the broadcast duo last week and not with me here back in the booth. Whatever it takes, that's what we're here for. But I'm loading back in, Mitchell, so if that needs to be the case, you'll have to give me a minute.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Don't know what's going on here because it's, again, we apologize to everyone wanting to watch the race. I think I got it figured out. I don't know that it was a dropped server issue on my end. I'm loading back into the sim, so let's hope everything is situated itself. That should take just a minute or two. Again, apologize for that. But yes, if you are in the chat, while we have this brief pause in the action, let us know just about anything. These are those times, Garrett, in the broadcast where we just make things up to talk about because it's hard to talk about a black screen.
Well, I'm back on track here. We have a good battle between James Lorello, Mike Tellier, Philip Scott, and the 97 of DJ Weeks out on track. And when we get back our screen back, that's I think where we're going to have to focus the broadcast, because these guys are not giving each other much room out there, and they are racing very hard. And with the tire wear as it is, this is pretty incredible to watch, Mitchell.
Yeah, we saw Lorello battling pretty hard with really all the Outlaw Racing drivers here tonight. Had that good battle at the end of the stage, and DJ Weeks is a driver we've seen also. We talk about consistency. He's been so consistent this season, putting up great finishes. Maybe not quite as flashy as Johnny Eckert, his teammate, but he's been running right there with him week in, week out. And when you're that good and that consistent on track, it's just a matter of time before you end up in victory lane.
Yeah, absolutely. You learn from your teammates. You share information. You share some of the secrets. Racing line. Hey, this is how I'm hitting in turn one. I'm at 135 miles an hour. Just throwing the number out there in turn one. Maybe focus on maintaining that type of speed throughout the corner. All that stuff helps. I'm adjusting my brake bias 20 laps into the race. I've learned so much racing with my TNR teammates. I consider everybody my teammate. And just like before the race, hey, adjust your steering ratio, adjust your this. And even I heard guys talking to each other, hey, make sure this is a tricky pit road. Make sure you get your pit road entry down, because it's a tricky one. So with green flag pit stops coming up here shortly, I'm waiting for somebody to short pit. I haven't seen it yet, but something to keep in mind that not all these guys practice pit stops.
And as you can clearly see on your screen, we are back up and running. We give Trading Paints a couple moments. You might see some cars go white like you just saw the 97. There's the 99 of Philip Scott. That's just Trading Paints loading into the session. But luckily, we are back up and running at Rockingham. Hopefully didn't miss too much. You see that battle. Let's go to that between James Lorello here and Mike Floppy Tellier. Not surprised whatsoever to see him running here. Now inside the top 5 in 4th behind James Lorello, Philip Scott in 5th, and then there's DJ Weeks we were talking about in 6th. Robert Kinney right behind him in the 7th position, and Robert Kinney is another one of those drivers. I don't think we've talked about him maybe as much as we would like to talk about drivers. He's been here 4 races. That includes the 2 last week, but ever since he got that win last week, he was up front in both those races. And again here today, having a good, strong run at Rockingham, up in the top 10. And racing, like all sports, it can be very mental. And when you get a good finish, or in that case, a win, it can put you, it seems to make that car a little bit faster. And you don't know exactly what it is, but we talk about getting over that hump of the first win. I don't think it was his first win. He certainly won races. He's a great driver. But once you get that first win of the season, it almost seems a little bit easier, I guess, to put that car up in the front. It's tough to explain, but if you've raced or you've played sports, you kind of know how important that mental factor is, as we're past halfway now in this race.
Yeah, the mental factor is very important, Mitchell, and you can just see you start having that bad luck out there, and it just snowballs, and you feel like I can't get a decent run in. I keep getting caught up in other people's messes, and it just seems to happen all the time to you. No matter if you race in 5 different leagues on 5 different days, it just keeps going. And like you just talked about, the opposite is also the case. You get into a groove. You're J.D. Laird. You run consistently up front all the time. You start winning races. You start to expect to win races. It's no different than in life. If you have a good day, you expect the next day to be a good day until you're proven otherwise. And I don't have many good days, but I hope that made sense.
It did. We understand what you're trying to say, Garrett. J.D. Laird up at the front of the pack has pulled a little bit of a gap now on the 90 of Johnny Eckert. I think Eckert heated those tires up a little much trying to keep pace with J.D. Maybe pushed a little hard trying to keep up with the 46, but again, that just goes to the talent of J.D. Laird and being able to run such a fast pace, but being able to save those tires all the while. And fastest short run car, but he always manages to back that up with just about as good, if not better, speed on the long runs.
Sorry, Mitchell, I was having a cough there. I don't even have anything to add to that point. I'm just really keeping an eye on when these guys are going to come to pit road, and I know that's poor broadcasting by my part, not having anything to add, but sometimes it's best to just not overstate a great point by your broadcast partner.
They have been out on track. My data got reset when the iRacing session crashed for me, so it's showing me that they've been on track 82 laps, which we know they haven't, or they've been on this set of tires 82 laps, and that's not true. I think they're about 50 laps, 45 laps into this run, and that's the longest we would expect these drivers to probably want to go on tires. And again, we come to the point, Garrett, of tires being so important here at Rockingham. You can, if this race runs green to the end, you could make it and take your 2 sets of tires and just be happy. But if we get a caution late in the race with, say, 20 laps to go, do you want to have that set of tires in the pits? And if so, is the chance of that happening worth maybe not taking tires here or on the next stop? Do you think we're going to see some drivers maybe chance that, Garrett?
Yeah, I think some guys have to, Mitchell. So if you're running in 10th place right now, Joey Chapman, I'm coming, I'm taking tires. I don't want to lose any more time. If I'm JD Laird, I know I have a little bit left in the tank. I'm not going to go a lap down by not taking tires. I think I want to keep a set for the event of a caution, but then, like we talked about earlier on in the race, you don't want to be left holding a set of tires at the end of the race and not being able to use them. That actually happened to me on our NSRA race on Friday. I thought I had the perfect strategy down, saved a set of tires for the end. Well, it went green to the end. I could only stop and pit for fuel, wasted the whole set of tires. So that is the fine line you are threading here at Rockingham with the tire limit. I think we're going to see everybody pretty much take tires, Mitchell, but that's why we have our data, and we will see what, if somebody just comes in for fuel, we will see the difference in their pit stop, and we'll have to keep an eye on them later in the race if there's a yellow.
My guess would be that you're probably going to see that strategy more on the second pit stop of this race than the first. Because, you know, most likely, even if you get a caution in the middle of this next run, you're probably going to be in your window to get to the end of the race. And so I feel like here we're going to see most everybody take tires. I think the second stop that I'm pretty sure we're going to have to make, we might actually be on the border of that if these drivers can push it far enough. But that second stop, if we get it, that's where the strategy is going to come into play. But you're pushing toward lap 90. The stage was on lap 30. They've been on track about 60 laps, little less, about 25 on this set of tires. That math was not right. 60 to 25, 55 laps on this set of tires. So you've got to think, looking at about 60 laps to go in the race, you could potentially be one and done here. But we could get another one of those scenarios where maybe somebody says, hey, I think new tires are good enough. I might come chance it or put 2 on. Or there's a whole bunch of things you can do with tires here, but still waiting. Oh, the 47 of Mike Tellier. What a save he had there. Let's go take a look back at that one, because I don't know how he kept that out of the infield wall.
Talent, Mitchell. That's how he kept it out of the wall. And wow, what a battle 60 laps into a run, though, between all these guys. And that had bad intentions there, Mitchell. And 47, Mike Tellier, fantastic wheelman. I've seen him drive the stadium trucks, trophy trucks, whatever you want to call them, and he always has tremendous control. And he needed every bit of that experience here before he found that inside wall at Rockingham. But good job by the 47.
Yeah, fantastic job. He got a little bit of the apron. I don't know if that's what made that car get so unsettled on the corner exit. First car down the pits. Shouldn't be surprised. Bill Edwards. Bill says, I'm not afraid to be the first one down pit road, and I want 4 tires, and he is going to do that. Matthew Rodriguez, I believe, is following him down pit road. Yes, he is. Will Ratcliffe in the chat, my broadcast partner from last week. Hello, Will. Glad you are tuning in. I think the big thing is Mike Tellier heads down pit road. When does the 46 decide to come down pit road? Or more importantly, compared to Johnny Eckert, who runs in second, if you're JD Laird, do you want to pit before Eckert behind you, or do you want a chance letting him come down a lap early and hope that he can't make up that gap that's sitting at about 1.5 seconds on tires? Because the fast time of this race is about 1.5 seconds faster than what they're running right now. So you are right on the cusp of potentially maintaining this lead or losing it based on when you pit.
Yeah, if I'm JD, I'm gonna stick to my strategy, but I think my strategy would be to just let the 90 dictate it. You have that gap. You're gonna hit your marks on pit road, not make a mistake. I don't expect JD to make a mistake ever, but don't rush it. You know what your number is. JD has planned this out. He's won races here before. He's probably raced this exact distance in this exact car here before. He knows way he's going to make this pit stop, and I don't think he's going to let the 90 or anyone else dictate that. But good job by Bill Edwards, Matthew Rodriguez, and whoever else came down pit road. Get your tires on, make up some time. That's the way to do it, especially with a green flag race like this.
Most of your leaders at this point in the run have been down pit road. The only drivers who have not made their stop are JD Laird, Johnny Eckert, DJ Weeks, Robert Kinney, and Tom Bourne. The top 5 on track currently. The only drivers who have not been down pit road. Now DJ Weeks makes his way down the pit lane. Those Outlaw Racing cars deciding to stretch this one out a little bit. And now JD Laird on his way down to pit road. And again, they are probably good to the end. I think that 95 lap mark, right around where they would want to be, 90-95, to where you know you could make it to the end of the race from here. So I think you said not afraid JD Laird when these other drivers came down pit road, knew his number, and he hit it there lap 96. And now the 90 of Johnny Eckert going to follow him right down pit road. We'll see if there's more takers behind him. Robert Kinney doesn't look like he's coming down pit road, so Kinney going to stay out, potentially get a lap-led bonus point. But those top 2 were the drivers we were watching, and JD Laird kind of answered that question. I don't know if by design he pitted after the 90 of Eckert, or before, excuse me. But it ended up working out that way, which I think can only do good things for JD Laird in this situation.
Yeah, I think it played out perfectly. He probably had a number in his head. I don't know if he has a crew chief helping him or not, but he had the number, he got the number, and he made his pit stop. And like you said, Mitchell, these guys will be able to make it to the end. I think a caution about halfway through this run, and then maybe after that would make things interesting. If we get like a double caution where guys had to like adjust where they're going to use the last set of tires, might put some strategy into play. But at this point, it seems like this race is going to stay green as we see the 34 of Robert Kinney come on the pit road. So making a flawless stop there is key, and it looks like JD Laird certainly did that.
Kinney, the last driver to come down pit road, and you saw JD Laird unlapped himself on track there with Robert Kinney. Bill Edwards in the number 5 machine, gonna be the big mover because he pitted so early. You see him up in front of the 90 of Johnny Eckert. He currently runs 2nd place on the racetrack, probably gonna get passed here just because he's on about 7 lap older tires than those leaders who just came down pit road. But if you can't pass him on track, Garrett, do it in pit road, and that short pit, it's got him some track position now, and it's just a matter of can he hold it as these tires fall off on the long run, because he's already disadvantaged because he has slightly older tires. And I said it at Rockingham, even a couple laps, 5 laps on tires, can be a massive difference in the speed you have here at such an abrasive racetrack like this.
Yeah, Mitchell, and I think it's kind of understated for people that are listening to our broadcast. Well, it's only 5 laps. How could it make that much of a difference? Well, trust us, I've raced for a long time. Mitchell's raced for a long time, been very successful. 5 laps is a ton of wear and tear on these tires. Your car does not handle like the same car after 2 laps, let alone 5 laps, and the 7 laps that Bill has on his tires. This is going to be a net win for Bill. He was running somewhere towards the back half of the top 10. He should gain some spots here in the final running order, but he's going to need everyone's tires to kind of equalize out there and guys to start slowing down a bit, so the gap between his tires and everyone else's tires isn't as drastic as far as the wear goes. But it was a strategy call, and I think it was the right call, Mitchell. And now he's just going to have to hold on, and hopefully he doesn't lose too many spots. But he's doing a tremendous job, and Floppy on his heels here for third place.
I think you're right, too. I agree with you. I think Bill Edwards made the right call 100%. He goes from about 8th or 9th all the way up to the 3rd position on the racetrack and was able to hold off Floppy there for the time being, at least. I think the ideal situation for Bill Edwards is that you get that caution about halfway through this run, and you can probably come in, take tires, and be on equal ground as these drivers around you are. Johnny Eckert didn't lose a ton of time by pitting a lap later, only lost about half a second on your race leader. 3 seconds now is the gap between first and second. Bill Edwards sits about a second behind Eckert, which again, you go from being 9 or 10 seconds behind the second place driver or the leader to now you're just a second off that guy's bumper. That's a pretty good round of green flag pit stops for the 5 of Bill Edwards. And I've raced with Bill for a long time too, and he's just a guy who knows how to work the strategies here. We'll go ahead and take you through the entire field at this point in the race so you know where your favorite drivers are running. Your race leader, since pretty much the drop of the green flag, J.D. Laird, your pole sitter, currently running in first still. The 90 of Johnny Eckert runs in second. Bill Edwards in third. Mike Floppy Tellier in fourth. Philip Scott behind them in the 5th position. Then it's DJ Weeks in 6th. James Lorello runs in 7th. Joey Chapman making some of his first starts this season. He's doing a good job running in 8th. Robert Kinney is in 9th, and Vincent Valvano putting up a good run, rounds out the top 10. Jamar Dumas, a driver who's really struggled with bad luck this season, he runs in 11th. Matthew Rodriguez in 12th. Bob Giaquinto, the tabletop trio machine, runs in 13th place right now. Doziak is the 14th place driver. Tom Bourne sits in 15th. Not a good cycle for Tom Bourne. I'm guessing he got a penalty of some kind because he was not 2 laps down when we started green flag pit stops, but he is now. Paul Bilson, the first driver to have retired that car to the garage, sits in 16th. Robert Tripp, I believe Tripp's still out on the track. He is about to pass Paul Bilson for 16th, not on the racetrack, but just in having turned more laps in this race. Jason Schue also still out on the racetrack. Runs in 18th, 35 laps down, and Johnny Williams retired early in this one. And that takes you through the field, and I see Garrett out in the chat saying you were going to cue me into it, and I just did it anyways. We're starting to build up that chemistry here in the booth. I can just read your mind, and I can feel you wanting that through the field, and I couldn't resist giving it to you.
Mitchell, one of my favorite parts of working with Peter over on 3Y TV is I would just say it at random times and just try to catch him off guard, and he was always a pro, but he never read my mind. And the fact that you just read my mind, and I was thinking about it, I'm like, as soon as Mitchell kicks it back to me, I'm asking him to take us through the field, and before I even got to talk, there you go, and you did it as an absolute pro. And a couple of those guys run at the back. Jason Schue, a guy who has run hundreds and thousands of laps here at Rockingham, our league sponsor, one of the best guys out there, struggling here, a lot of laps down. I wonder what happened there. Jason's not a guy I didn't expect him to be up contending for the win here tonight, but I expected a solid run out of number 3, and I'm a bit surprised. Bill Edwards here still holding off Floppy for 3rd place. We talked about what a win for the number 5 of Bill Edwards, being able to maintain the speed he's had so far after these pit stops and short pitting.
Yeah, he now sits comfortably inside the top 5. I guess I shouldn't be surprised with Bill Edwards being fast, but I am surprised how well he's held on to this 3rd position in front of Mike Floppy Tellier. Philip Scott a couple seconds behind them too, so Bill Edwards comfortably in the top 5. His tires, looking at it, actually not that much older than Mike Tellier. Actually, Tellier pitted just a lap after Bill Edwards, so these two are basically on even equipment. You go Philip Scott running in the 5th position, about 2 seconds off Mike Tellier. His tire's 3 laps fresher, and then the drivers behind him a little bit fresher as well. And Tellier, the thing he's done so well that's won him races is that he puts himself in position to go get the win. Even if he hasn't gone out and led all the laps like we've seen JD Laird do here tonight, he's puts himself up toward the front of the field when, if something happens to your leader, which we've seen that happen before this season, and Mike Tellier capitalized on it, or if we just get a late race caution here, stacks the field back up, Tellier's at the front where he could do something about it starting in the 2nd row. You see him trying to work in that high line. That's something we haven't seen a ton tonight in that outside lane. Of course, I say that, I go on board wanting to see it, and then he jumps down to the inside of 3 and 4. We'll see if he doesn't go back up top 1 and 2, just because I'd love to see that high line get run on board. No, he doesn't. Goes back to the inside. Thanks a lot, Mike.
Yeah, no more riding along with him if he's not going to cooperate with us, Mitchell. Like, we have a broadcast to do. He's being very selfish out there. But just going back to your point, Mike putting himself in contention to win races week after week. He also has the luxury of knowing that he is in good points position. He's won races. He can risk it on strategy. And Mike has always been a guy that, since we were teenagers, would be contrarian, do the different thing that the leaders were doing, and just hope that the luck was on his side. Now he's going to do that every race because he's won. He wants to win again. He has nothing to lose. And that's a dangerous Floppy when Floppy has nothing to lose. Trust me, Mitchell.
Yeah, and the speed that's come along with that, another top 5 run for him here tonight. And Bill Edwards running just in front of him. The top 2, again, we don't want to overshadow. JD Laird has actually been run down a little bit by Johnny Eckert. Eckert now 2 seconds behind Laird, but we saw this in the last run as well at about this same time, 25 laps into the run. These drivers, the 90s, started to get a little bit faster, it looked like, than JD, but then we looked away and then we came back to him, and all of a sudden Johnny had slipped back and JD Laird had pulled out with a lead, and we'll see if that same thing doesn't happen again. He's run down about a second on him, but JD Laird has just had the long run pace tonight. No one's really been able to match, and that's been the difference maker. When you have a track that's this abrasive on tires, wears them off this quickly, and you have long green flag runs, long run pace is 9 times out of 10 what wins this race.
Oh, absolutely. And this race could not have gone better for JD Laird if he's wanted it to. You want green flag runs. You want to be able to get in your rhythm and have nobody change up the strategy by causing an untimely yellow or wrecking you or damaging you. And so far, you could not have scripted this better. And I know people, they're talking about scripts for fights and football games and everything else, but this is legit, and this is exactly how JD Laird wanted this race to play out. And it's not a surprise seeing him lead, but like you said, Johnny Eckert has been slowly closing the gap, and there is certainly enough time left for him to get there. And if JD struggles with some lap traffic, I don't imagine that Johnny's going to let him get away too easily.
It'd be very difficult to script racing. You'd see one driver pick up 5 seconds on a lap or something crazy. That's a little bit difficult to do. Honestly, it'd be interesting to see. Not that it would be something I'd watch every week, but maybe once. I don't know. It's an interesting concept. Definitely probably not realistic to do, but if anyone ever does it, we're going to copyright trademark the scripted iRacing race on the World Racing Network.
I'd like to maybe take up a collection, Mitchell. I'll give all these guys like $20 one of these weeks and just like let me dominate a race. I'll just like make sure you guys go like 75% throttle, and no matter what I do, just don't pass me. And this way I could have something to show my kids one day if I could ever find a woman that could spend more than 5 minutes with me without getting disgusted.
Eckert continues to reel in JD Laird just a little bit. He's also been the fastest car on the racetrack most of the last few laps. Not the case that time. Laird slightly faster. I don't think Eckert quite got off of turn 4 as well, and that made the difference. But these drivers 8 seconds in front of third place. So if you're Johnny Eckert, at this point, do you keep pushing Garrett and hope maybe I can catch that 46 if he really has a bad run or just didn't get a good tire on that car or something? Or are you just going to settle in here? Because I know drivers who would go both ways with that.
Well, Mitchell, I would normally think if they had no tires left that I'm going to ease up here in case we get a yellow. Not ease up necessarily, but I'm not going to overdo it because you still want to catch them. That was a very stupid comment, but I think everybody knows what I'm trying to say. But since you have that set of tires in the pits, if the yellow comes out, everyone's going to pit. I'm out there trying to learn and trying to get as much as I can off this lead from JD Laird because there's really no use in saving your stuff with a set of tires in the pits and there's such a big gap to third place. But had you been battling here second and third, yeah, I could see not wanting to like damage your race car or whatever. But I'll throw it back to you. What are you doing? Are you saving something here or are you going full out?
I think if I am the 90, I'm probably saving because I'd expect JD Laird, he's getting run down, but I also think JD is probably aware of the fact he had a massive lead and can back off and save some extra tire. Maybe if I save tires, I could potentially take 2 tires, possibly if we get another caution. Obviously, I want to run him down, and I'm still going to push a little bit to try and get to him, but this run started with Johnny Eckert 3 seconds behind JD Laird, and just realistically, with as fast as JD is, I don't know that I'm going to run him down. At least me personally, I'm not capable of running JD Laird down from 3 seconds back. I don't know about Johnny Eckert, but if it were me, I'm saving tires because I'd be eyeing a 2-tire stop on the late race caution. That's just me and what I would do if I was one of these drivers. But again, there's so many different ways you could do that, and maybe if you're at the front, you don't want to take 2 tires either. I'm just crazy, maybe. I don't know.
I was thinking you were crazy, and I was going to compliment you for being crazy because I certainly like that in my broadcast partners, but I don't think there's any way from second place you want to take 2 tires unless you 100% believe that you have no shot at beating JD straight up. But I think Johnny has proven that he has enough speed, that number 90 Outlaw Racing Chevrolet, that he can beat JD if he's able to get a pit stop or even a little bit of luck. He's been closing this gap. He's about 1.5 seconds now from what I saw last. And you could see that 46 out front of your windshield, and here's a good, perfect, wow, you read my mind again, Mitchell. But you could just see the distance, and I know it doesn't look all that close, but if you can tell as a race car driver if that car just got just 1/10 closer to you, and it just makes you want to drive all that much more. And like right now, going to the corner, it looks like he got a bunch closer there, Mitchell, unless that was an optical illusion.
No, you're right. That number 90 continues to reel in JD Laird out of the race lead and continues to be the fastest car on the track as well. You see him, it's a little bit more difficult to see when you're on board, but he is diamonding that corner. He lets it go down low on that yellow line, corner entry, and slides up a little bit in the middle, and then again turns it right back down closer to that yellow line. That's exactly what that looks like from on board one of these race cars. A perfect example of it. And you see maybe losing a little bit of time now to JD Laird, but he's held in between 1 second and 1.5 seconds behind him. But even if you're able to run him down too, you're running out of time now. 15 laps to go. So you've got to start really cutting almost 1/10 a lap every single lap if you even want to just get to his bumper with the white flag. And the Eckert really, he had that car sideways going into the corner. He's pushing really hard right now, sliding out of the corner, and he's losing time because of that out of the turn. And I think that's the position he's kind of put himself in. He has to push this car for everything it has left, but that's not always going to equal speed at a tough track like Rockingham, where it's almost more about your rhythm and being consistent with the way you do the corners rather than just pushing the car harder.
It's amazing. You just made that point. 137 laps in the race, but like you said, consistency is the most important thing out there, and being able to just hit your marks. And it's harder to be consistent when you're chasing the leader, and that's probably another stupid. We can have a whole list of stupid Garrett statements tonight, Mitchell. But you want to catch that car. You want that car to get the closer in your mirror, but you start missing your braking points. You start getting on the throttle too hard, and that's when mistakes happen, and you take yourself out of a chance to win the race. And these guys are getting racy. You never know about that late race caution there, Mitchell.
Yeah, it's still very possible here with a little over 10 laps to go. Another battle that's going on. Robert Kenny and Joey Chapman, they've at times been within a second of each other. They sit at about a second between these two cars. But if they start to get a little bit dicey, make things interesting back here, we'll put a camera on that. You also see James Lorello just a little bit behind the 60 of Joey Chapman. And even if there aren't a bunch of cars side by side, Garrett, we've seen single car cautions where someone just gets a little bit high out of the groove into the wall or gets loose off the corner. We're at that point in the run where you could see a car just lose it on exit, and if they wreck in the racing surface, we've got ourselves a caution. 10 laps to go. You don't even need guys getting racy side by side with how difficult this track is to drive. Sometimes it just happens, but these TNR drivers, they're so talented, and we've seen this race run completely green flag except for the stage caution, as we've been seeing all season long. So I'm probably a little bit confident if I'm JD Laird up front, but you can never be sure. When you're leading this race in the closing laps, it almost always seems like there's going to be a caution.
I know they talk about this on the actual NASCAR broadcast. You feel every bump in the track. You start hearing noises. And I don't think JD's necessarily hearing noises, but you're looking out ahead. You're seeing these guys getting lapped, and you're thinking, please hold on to it. And you don't know how many times I've been hoping either for a caution or not for a caution, and I look up ahead and somebody's going through the grass, and you don't know if iRacing is going to throw it. Well, imagine being JD Laird with a big lead and that sort of thing happening to you. That just will set you off, especially if you end up losing the race on some sort of strategy or not having tires. But in this case, they're all pretty much in the same playing field. A yellow would make it interesting, but I'm not sure it would completely alter the outcome. And you see somebody like Schue there just getting out of the way, letting JD have his space, and JD appreciates that. You don't necessarily race side by side with each other all the time, but as the leader or as somebody that is lapping some, people take notice of that, and that's a veteran thing, a respect thing, and that goes a long way here at Total Nonstop Racing.
Yeah, there's no reason at really any point, if you're Jason Schue, you're 37 laps down, hasn't had a good night. There's no reason to be racing the leader, especially with 6 laps to go in the race. Just let him go do his thing. And JD has pulled away a little bit from Johnny Eckert. Now that gap at about 2.5 seconds. So as soon as that 90 started pushing too hard, he started falling back again. And I also think that JD just saved it up, had a bunch of speed left in the tank, saved his tires. And now, with just a handful of laps to go, 5 to go at the line that time, he's letting that car just go do its thing, because I think if we get a caution, everybody is down pit road except maybe like Joey Chapman in 8th, James Lorello 9th, the last drivers on the lead lap. Maybe they throw some kind of Hail Mary, but really everyone's probably coming down pit road. They got 50 laps on their tires, so it's pretty safe. You don't need to say there's smoke on the track. Don't know where that came from. That's an interesting camera. And that's another thing, if you're JD Laird, you see smoke coming down the front straightaway, you're like, oh my gosh, that's the last thing I need, but we remain green. It's just those little things, Garrett. There's no more nervous time. I'm less nervous when I'm battling for the lead with a handful of laps to go than I am when I have a 3-second lead and all I need is for nothing to happen for just a couple more laps.
Yeah, that's racing there, bud. You can't predict it, and no matter what, you're just not prepared for what it's going to throw at you. Just want to go back real quick. Bill Edwards held on to 3rd place here with a couple laps to go. What a strategy call by the crew chief of that number 5 S2R Toyota Camry. I got it right that time. A Supra. It's a Supra. I almost had it right, Mitchell. Right? Is it a Supra? Whatever.
Yeah, these are Supras.
It was a Camry in my day, but we also had Dodge and NASCAR back then. This just ages me, but I'm not as old as Bill because when he was racing, they were horse-drawn chariots, Mitchell.
Just a handful of laps to go. The Supra, I think it's only 2 or 3 years we've had the Supra. It was the Camry for a really long time. James Lorello getting past Joey Chapman. Actually, no, yeah, I do believe the 13 got around. I'm trying to remember from a couple laps ago when we checked in on these guys, but look who's right behind him, and that's the 46 of J.D. Laird. Mike Tellier lost some spots under this green flag run. Bill held it solid in third, but Floppy back into fourth. But that was the race win. We completely missed the white flag, and there is J.D. Laird picking up the race win. That one completely flew right over my head. J.D. Laird wins the FatalConcepts.com 150. Mike going to stay on the lead lap. Johnny Eckert in second, Bill Edwards third. But yeah, he went so fast up there in the lead, didn't even know he finished the race.
Well, I thought you were just expecting a doubleheader like we had last week, Mitchell, and that's perfectly acceptable. And JD's won enough races that he's going to forgive you for missing the call there on this important victory here in the Total Nonstop Racing League, FatalConcepts.com 150 at Rockingham. And JD's going to burn it down, and we'll get ready for our top 3 interviews with JD Laird, Johnny Eckert, and Bill Edwards.
Yeah, these are going to be great interviews. As always, we're going to let JD do his post-race celebration, and we will bring it right back from Rockingham talking with those top 3 finishers. Back live from Rockingham in the WRN post-race show. Time to start talking to those top 3 finishers. Gonna kick it off with Bill Edwards, driver of that FatalConcepts.com number 5 machine. Bill, me and Garrett were both sitting up here in the booth on that first round of pit stops after the stage. Like, where did he go? You were up in second, and then you dropped back a little bit, but then all of a sudden we pit and you're back up in third, and now you got the podium finish. Just take us through your race, because it was a little bit chaotic for you here tonight.
I wasn't bad. I mean, it was, I don't know. I must have ran out of talent in the pits there. I don't know how. I was watching it, and then I pulled, once I got into my stall, it said excessive speeding in the pits. So I wasn't didn't enter too fast. At some point, that I must have just bumped it up over 40, and that was it. So had to go to the end of the line. I probably couldn't be too much happier with third after that, because I mean, it was a hard place to pass. I had to pass a lot of cars. There's a lot of people being nice to me and letting me go. So Um, yeah, I mean, third place, I'll take it. I was hoping I could stay up there and see what it was like on a full fuel run, if I could hang with JD a little bit longer or not. But he's fast. I mean, he was caught like a tenth a lap on me before the stage break. So who knows? Who knows what would have happened?
You were the first driver to come down pit road on those green flag pit stops. Did you expect to be able to hang in up in third place, or did you think even just that couple extra laps on your tires might have meant slipping back a little bit more?
Uh, I was forced into it for the most part. So cutting through all the traffic, I had to, I couldn't save anything. And in practice, I seen that the tire wear can be pretty good when you're pushing, and I had to push the whole thing. So I figured I'd go in, be the first one to get fresh tires, hope that people tried to stay out for. I mean, they were pretty close. They're only maybe 5 laps or something from having to pit, anyways. But I needed to get whatever I could out of it. So it's kind of forced my hand, and then at that point, then I was just in cruise control and try and take care of the tires as best I could. When Johnny Eckert came up, he had fresh tires, and I was like, "Yep, that's." There's not much I could do with that, but because he pit and was able to get right back around me again, and but then after that, once the tires kind of evened out, everybody was kind of from what I could see around me, everybody's going about the same speed. So except those front two guys, but yeah, at that point I was just riding, hoping to hang on, hoping nobody came back with some really good tires and was able to get around me, and we held them off.
Yeah, great run, great finish for you here at the Rock. And talk about too, you're the points leader coming into this race. I would expect you to probably hold that points leading position after tonight. How much are you looking at points at this point in the season? I know we've still got a ways left to go toward the playoffs, but is that starting to creep into your mind just a little bit?
The no wins is creeping into my mind more than the points lead. I know if when they reset the points, or I don't know how they're doing it, but if they reset the points and JD's got 1,000,000 wins, everybody else I think Mike's got 3, so there's going to be a lot of people passing me, no matter where my points are at the end of the season. Once they reset the points, those wins is what matters. So that creeps into my head. I got to be able to pull one of these off without screwing something up like I did today and get a win. But yeah, other than that, I mean, it was a good run. It was a good points day, and did decent on the stage break. So I'll take it.
Gotta ask you about next Monday night at Homestead Miami Speedway, going to 1.5 miles. Another more unique track. It's not like those D-oval 1.5 miles we see most of the time. It's a little different at Homestead. Multi-groove racing. You think you can put this number 5 machine back up at the front next week?
Long as I can, as long as I keep my head on straight, I don't do nothing silly. Yeah, I should be able to keep going with the top 5. Hopefully, I like Homestead. It's one of my favorite tracks. I like it a little bit better in the trucks, but I've been able to do decent, in the Xfinity cars here, so should be all right. I'm looking forward to it.
We're looking forward to it as well. Before we let you go, give you a chance to give some shout outs. We've also got the fatalconcepts.com 150 tonight, so go ahead, get a plug in for Fatal Concepts as well while we've got you up here in the booth.
Oh, yeah. Yep, fatalconcepts.com. It basically just takes you to my Trading Paints page, and you can kind of see what I do. If you're looking for something, hit me up on Discord. And then, got to say, thanks to you guys up in the booth for doing an awesome job every week. Thanks to Garrett and TNR and all the admins in here. Got to give a shout out to Stay Tuned Sports, sponsor for Fridays, and we got some stuff going on here as well. S2R, all my boys in the racing team, and gotta say hi to my mom.
Oh, that sounds good. Thanks for stopping by, Bill. Again, congratulations on the 3rd place here tonight, and we're looking forward to watching you again next week at Homestead.
We'll see you then.
That was Bill Edwards, driver of the S2R, fatalconcepts.com Toyota Supra. while I've got him in slow motion here on screen, I might as well get it right at least once tonight. Garrett Gleason went and caught up with your second place finisher tonight, Johnny Eckert.
Oh, geez, Mitchell, I dozed off there during Bill's interview. What a painful bit of broadcasting that was. Johnny Eckert, congratulations on your second place run here at Rockingham, Total Nonstop Racing League Fatal Concepts 150. Just wanted to ask, you seem to have a little bit of something there towards the end. You were closing the gap on JD. Just didn't have the tire, didn't have the strategy, or did you think you needed the yellow there to reel him in?
No, about 15 to go, 20 to go. I felt like I was making good ground and I was doing my thing. And then I told JD in the waiting room that about 15 to go, I started to feel the rear tires slip out, and then from there to 12 to go, I wasn't gaining anymore or I was losing. So at that point, I was just like, yeah, I just got to make sure that I make it to the finish, because the car was getting skatier and skatier. And, for me right now, I'm just trying to get as many points on the people above me to try to make the chase. So, I got a big gap to make up. So throwing away points here wasn't really an option. So, yeah, I mean, I may have had a little bit more. I had one or two tricks up my sleeve yet that I may have been able to push the issue, but I didn't feel like the risk was worth the reward at that point. And JD was gone. I mean, it may have visually looked a little bit closer, but from behind the wheel, it just felt like I was like on the edge for so long that I was burnt out, I was exhausted, and I don't know, maybe I don't know exactly how it felt for him, but he seemed like he was in total control. So yeah, I don't know, I didn't really have it towards the end. I just had to make it to the finish.
Well, you know what I could say about you, Johnny, and I don't know you all that well, but you are a fantastic teammate, because Jake was not here tonight. You ended up finishing second. That's what he normally does. So I don't think
Oh,
we really
man.
could have expected much better out of you in the number 90 Outlaw Racing Chevrolet. But I'm not going to keep you. You just gave a fantastic interview. You literally told us about your race tonight and how the track felt and everything else. So just you're talking about the points battle. This is a long season. You're in the points making up mode. We're headed to Homestead, another gritty racetrack next week. What are your thoughts on Homestead? Have you had success there? And what do you think the key is to passing and beating someone like JD Laird at a place like Homestead?
Well, I feel I'm not a big fan of Rockingham. I've run here a few times, but this car and I just do not get along here. So, I like Homestead a little bit more. I feel like it's going to be a tougher battle, in regards to the racing aspect. But I think it'll put on a good race, and I'm excited to get to a non-bumpy track, because my hands are feeling it after this one. But yeah, I'm looking forward to Homestead. You never know what can happen. So hopefully you just keep making up points. That's the main goal right now, and I don't know. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. And hey, nothing to be upset about. Nice green flag race tonight. We're out of here in a timely fashion, and you get a podium and a P2. And before I let you go, if you want to give a shout out to your teammates and sponsors, the floor is yours, buddy.
Yeah. Oh, thank you guys for broadcasting. Thanks to the league and all the admins for all they do to put the show on every week. Congrats to JD on the win. I want to thank Jake Bustos and DJ Weeks for my teammates, even though Jake's, as you mentioned, is away, playing military man. But thanks to Alex Boffley, who's watching apparently. But yeah. Thanks to the team, thanks to the league, and yeah, I'm sure I'm forgetting something. I'm tired, but
Yeah.
yeah, thank you all for having me, and looking forward to next week. May not have been checker flag, but good points, and right now that's the most important thing for me.
Well, it's a pleasure having you. Go take an ice bath, and it's snowing here in Pennsylvania. If you want to go jump in the snow wherever you're at, I don't know if that's possible, but
Yeah,
go check.
Long Island. So we're next. We're next to get it.
Well, good luck. I hope you get some rest in, and we'll see you next week. Go throw it to my partner, Mitchell
Appreciate it, guys.
Adams, who is catching up with the JD Laird victory party. I think JD was at Auto Club last night. He was probably celebrating in Victory Lane, and here he is in Victory Lane at Rockingham. I hope he has frequent flyer miles, Mitchell.
Yeah, JD Laird back into Victory Lane at Rockingham. It was a dominant performance for you here tonight, JD.
Yeah, it was nice to actually do this race with two functioning eyes this time. Because the last time I had a cordial abrasion, I'm like, oh, I can see half of the wall. That's cool. But yeah, like these types of racetracks, like Darlington Auto Club, Rockingham, Chicago, like these are kind of my type of wheelhouse racetracks. To just sit there and run your own race. If somebody wants to go, let them go. If somebody wants to chill, let them chill. And I pretty much did that all race. I got a little gap in the first stage, I think it was Bill, roll up to me, did my best to kind of roll back up ahead of him. Second stage, when Johnny got to me, I tried to play that gap a little bit, burn it up, and yeah, it's just I can't emphasize I love these types of racetracks. They just suit me too well.
You kind of answered my next question already. I was going to talk about how you didn't have to let many people go by you. You pretty much, you started from the pole, you got to the lead, and you stayed there. But these bumpy tracks, we don't see too many of them anymore. But you talked about it. You like this style of racing, and it suits you pretty well.
Yeah, I've always been a advocate, I guess is the right word, of if the racing. I mean, granted, this wasn't essentially hard to drive, but if you put the drivers in a box to where they can't go full kill, like you could at a Kansas or Charlotte or a Michigan, that the racing is going to slow down, spread out, and get better. I'm all for close quarter stuff. That's no problem. But these races that drag out, and you have to save the tires, think about pit strategy, when to pit, when to not. It kind of nods in my favor a little bit because I'm old. I've been around sim racing far too long, so these tracks are home to me. So it's just an overall fun experience.
I hate to rip you away from the fun bumpy track at Rockingham. Next week, we're going to a pretty new scan of Homestead Miami Speedway. Pretty much the opposite, a very smooth racing surface iRacing has created at Homestead. But do you feel like, I know you probably feel like you can, but do you think you can back up this finish with another good run next week at Homestead?
I would like to, but Homestead hasn't been very kind to me. I've been over the past like calendar year or 365 days, like I've been in like 4 championship races coming down to Homestead, and I poop the bed pretty bad, like diuretically poop all over the bed. But I can hold my own. I just got to make sure that I hold my wad a little bit and not try to go kill, because Homestead, you can't really rip the fence. Like you can do it in a hot lap, but you can't do it in a race unless it's hot, slick, and the setup's terrible, like terrible free. So it's just basically going to be follow the leader, pin the tail on the donkey around the bottom, maybe a lane up. But we'll see. Maybe I can knock that Florida Jit monkey off my back and maybe actually pull a win out at Homestead.
We're looking forward to that race. It's going to be a good one. Maybe definitely look for you up front. Maybe get to talk to you again next week. Before I let you go, though, give you a chance to shout out your sponsors. You've got any fans you've got watching?
Well, if I have fans, go find a better driver. I'm far from it, like an example of a fan favorite, but I gotta give a shout out to Reckless Society, Valvoline, Langford Farm, Spirited by Brad, Aquatech Glassing, Anderson Surfboards, Jake Swanson Shock Technology, Fuse Lenses. Um, all you guys for putting on the show to let us drive our polygons and pixels and our very, very mid-pack desks to the fullest. Everybody on the broadcast team, and I think that's about it. I just feel like I need to like say one more thing about like tracks like these. Like I really wish NASCAR would stop wanting to change these types of racetracks, because my home track is now gone. These tracks are what make a driver, and it's just an overall fun experience. These glass, brand new pavement, pin the tail, pin the throttle down, follow the leader. Yeah, no, like these are what the fans want. These are the bread and butter of the race of auto race or oval racing in North America. So I want to see more of these there, and hopefully they stick around.
we had talked about that earlier in the broadcast, who definitely would love to see tracks like this get preserved. But we're glad to see you back with us, JD, and looking forward to seeing more of you here, hopefully in these next couple of weeks. Good luck next week at Homestead too.
Yeah, I'll be around. My schedule's actually opened up, so I don't know if that's a good thing for you guys, because you might have to talk to me on a regular basis. I don't know, but yeah, my schedule's opened up quite nicely, so I might be able to make a run for a championship. But if not, I'll just take the trophy hunter vibe and move on to the next week.
Well, looking forward to seeing what you can do through the rest of the season. Thanks for chatting with us here tonight, JD.
Appreciate it. Thank you, guys.
JD Laird, tonight's race winner at Rockingham Speedway. Garrett, another dominant performance for JD Laird. We've come to expect it from him at this point. Every time he's on track, it seems like he goes and runs up at the front of the field. Tonight, no exception to that. Just a phenomenal performance for all 150 laps for JD Laird.
Yeah, no shock, and I was glad to hear that, because I like having JD here, and I think it just makes our guys that much better having him in the field every week, and having him in contention for a championship is really special too. And the fact that he touched on the type of track Rockingham is, and I know he's a big fan of Auto Club, and I saw his picture on Twitter last night. He was taking a chunk of the racetrack home because that's his home, and that's a place that he's always wanted to win and dominate at, which he has done on iRacing here. So I'm excited. This was a fairly easy drive for JD, and I think, like he said, next week at Homestead's going to be more of a challenge. But a great job by everyone, Mitchell. We had a nice green flag run here in the Fatal Concepts 150, and that's always great from a league administrative perspective.
Yeah, a fantastic race. Green all the way except for the stage caution, and we'll take you through the finishing order from tonight's Fatal Concepts 150 at Rockingham. JD Laird picked up the win tonight. Talked to him. Johnny Eckert in second and Bill Edwards in third. All of them you heard from in the post-race show tonight. Philip Scott finished in fourth place. DJ Weeks got a top 5 finish for Outlaw Motorsports. Him and Johnny Eckert both with good speed here tonight. Robert Kenny finishes in the 6th position. James Lorello in 7th. Mike Floppy Tellier in 8th. And Joey Chapman in 9th rounded out all the drivers, finishing in the top, or on the lead lap, excuse me. Rounding out the top 10 was Vincent Valvano, 1 lap down. Also a lap down in 11th, Jamar Dumas, and in 12th, Bob Giaquinto. 13th, Matthew Rodriguez. 2 laps down in 14th, Stephen Doziak Jr. 15th, 2 laps down, Tom Bourne. Robert Tripp finishes 16th, 19 laps down. Jason Schue with the 17th place finish. Paul Bilson, the DNF here tonight, also not finishing the race tonight, was Johnny Williams in the number 9. But again, Garrett, each and every week on Monday nights, these drivers in the Total Nonstop Racing League put on fantastic races, and I'm looking forward to Homestead because when I was racing, that was always a favorite track of mine. I loved Homestead, and with the work iRacing's done on that, it's created some multi-groove racing we didn't always get from that, but it mimics more of what we see in real life now. And Homestead's another track I think has the potential to put on a great race for us next Monday night.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun one, Mitchell. I look forward to it, and it's just a pleasure being here and on World Racing Network and being able to do this. And these guys have not disappointed us so far this season, and I expect no different next week at Homestead.
We've got to give a couple shout outs to our sponsors here tonight. Of course, fatalconcepts.com sponsoring the Fatal Concepts 150. Make sure to go check them out. Again, they do some fantastic paint work. They've done it for both me and Garrett. Bill Edwards' car on track. Fatal Concepts. Go give them a message. fatalconcepts.com. Highly recommended by us at the World Racing Network. Also, of course, have to thank Schue Lawn Service, the title sponsor of the TNR Grand National Series, presented by Schue Lawn Service, and Tabletop Trio for the Tabletop Trio Lucky Dog Award, which we didn't give away once again tonight because this race went green flag all the way and no one was a lap down at the stage. Also, thank you to Stay Tuned Sports as well. And that is going to do it for us here tonight at Rockingham. Garrett, anything else you'd like to add before we go off the air?
No, sir. Let's hope you don't miss the finish next week, Mitchell, because you embarrassed us. No, I'm just kidding. Let's have some fun. Everybody have a safe week, and we'll see you here on the World Racing Network on Monday night.
Yep, we are looking forward to that one. It's going to be a great race. Until then, for all of us at the World Racing Network, Eric Gleason, my broadcast partner, myself, Mitchell Adams, thank you all for tuning in. We look forward to next Monday night with you. And until then, stay safe, have fun, and we'll see you in Homestead.